Oye, 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 espérate y espérame. Pero vamos a hablar inglés.
No me llama Carlos, ese no es mi nombre, ahora es un cocotazo. Tiene que tener que ser mujer y no muchacho. Me da pique porque para ti soy un fracaso. Me da pique porque para los hombres soy Pegaso. Me da pique porque transfoy sobrepaso. Me da pique porque ellos son carrasco. Me da pique porque ellos son un carrasco. Un carrasco, dale fuetazo. Un carrasco, dale fuetazo.
¿Qué lo que, mi gente? And welcome back to another episode of the Vamos a Hablar Inglés podcast. I'm your host, La Reina Taina. I'm so excited to be coming back to you after a couple of months, even though I said I was going to continue doing this on time. But this is our October podcast episode being released and recorded in December. So yes, bear with me. You know, I'm happy to say that we finished the semester, my first semester at film school, so it was very, very busy. I'm proud to say that I got a 4.0 GPA, point blank period, ya tú sabes, dándolo todo y todo y todo. So today I have with me Amaïs, and Amaïs is my tribal sister from the Higuayagua Tainos of the Caribbean, and she is literally my best friend, and I love so much of the wisdom that she had to share in this podcast. And for starters, apologies for the audio's issues, because I was recording her. I had her on like FaceTime or video chat, and essentially I was recording with my phone. So as always, I want to always give trigger warnings. We're gonna have conversations about, you know, trans identity, suicidality, violence, racism, all these things. So make sure to take care of yourself. Make sure you got your tea, your coffee, whatever makes you feel good, and sit back and relax. We're going to have really, really fruitful conversations, and I really think everybody, not only trans people, can learn from the conversations and the wisdom that was shared by Amaïs. So yes, please enjoy, my loves.
My goodness. Well, so I am Amaïs, so the Mayaringa. I'm Puerto Taina, Afro-Taina. I can really get into it, but people are not ready for that. And let's see, what else? I'm a little witchy girl, little mountain hibara.
Period. Awesome. Okay, entonces, this is going to be real casual. We're going to chat about whatever. But the first thing that came to mind, just because it keeps popping up, but I want to hear your thoughts about the movement, protect the dolls and fund the dolls and stuff like that. And like, yeah, I don't know, just like your thoughts. So like, what does it mean to you? And I guess, I don't know, we can talk about that and start from there.
Oof. So I think that it can get very intense, because I do believe in fund the dolls and protect them, especially because we're in a society where we're overly hated for no reason. Mm-hmm. So obviously we need protecting, because we're good at protecting ourselves, but at the same time it doesn't really matter if like almost all of America is really trying to kill you. I think not. And then there needs to be more funding in our communities, because not only for our hormones, but for psychological reasons. And a lot of people think it's because we're mentally ill as trans people, and no, it's because of the things that we have to go through as trans people because of other people who supposedly are not mentally ill but don't have a problem killing a trans person just because they're different. Mm-hmm. So also, it can be harder for trans people to get jobs, healthcare, housing, because of how we're frowned upon and how we're seen. And if you're a less passing trans person, then literally you just feel like hopeless. You feel like, oh, well, let me go ahead and just, you know, give up because nothing's working out, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, 100%. And I think that's something that, like, I find so interesting, because it's like, my opinion is that when it comes to social movements, when things become movements like this in organizations or whatever, they tend to move away from the actual mission. And I think that's something that I feel like any organization that tries to be trans focused can immediately lose the point, because nobody actually knows what it is to be trans and what it is to live in a trans body and the trans experience. And it's like, for me personally, what I see, especially on social media, is how it's, again, another slogan, something that's catchy that really only supports a certain group of people. And I really do believe that what I'm seeing in the mainstream is the whole Fund the Dolls thing is for white passing, very gender passing trans people. And like, that's it. And if they're not gender passing or whatever, they have to be crazy famous. And it's like, I don't know. Because every single time I see Fund the Girls and Fund the Dolls and those other things, it's like, what about people like you, like me, people that are African refugees that are trans, people that are undocumented that are trans, that don't have access to cell phones, that don't have access to internet? Like, I don't know. That's when I think about Protect the Dolls and Fund the Dolls, I think about people like that, because it's like, at the end of the day, that's us, and we're really the most advantaged when we look at Indigenous, people of color, disabled, stuff like that. So I don't know. I just want to hear your thoughts on that part of it.
I think that I can agree with that. Mainly anytime, like on TikTok, Instagram, when I do see it, I do see that it's mainly white people saying it, you know, and they're living in Beverly Hills and things like that, and maybe they were attacked in richer neighborhoods and things like that. So, yeah, you do rarely hear it. Like, I have seen, like, ese show, Doll House, and on there, you know, en vez en cuando siempre gritan, like, protect the dolls. And so, and, you know, on Doll House, it was mainly, if not all of them were African American. So I think that shows like that bring more attention to the protected dolls. But I feel like when it comes to colored people, when they say protected dolls, and they turn around and they fight each other, and I think that that's what's helping to create a negative connotation about trans people in general. And I think they're more willing to help white or lighter, mainly white, trans people, because of the fact that they feel like either black or brown transgender people are more of a problem. Because I think not just in the trans world, but if we just talk about black people in general, they're always treated different in any room that they're in. So therefore, it doesn't really matter if it's, you know, housing or protecting the house, they'll always want to protect the white ones more or the lighter ones more, because we don't hold as much value as they do.
That's the other thing with, like, bringing in culture y todo, and, like, being trans, is that when you're trans of color, we really open up a new conversation within our communities where it's like, it's not just, oh, we're Indigenous, we're immigrant, we're black, and like, that's an issue. It's like, no, our own cultures were poisoned and harmed to think that queer and trans people and two-spirited people never existed in our cultures. And that's the wild thing, because it's like, colonization as we know it has only really been around for like 500 years. So it's insane that we have, all of us in different ways, thousands and thousands of years of indigenous culture from our proper like lands and everything. And it's like, it's so easy for our generations to just completely disregard and forget all of that stuff, you know? Yeah.
I think when you also think about like how as black people, we have been oppressed so much to a degree to where we learn to oppress our own people. So then, yes, sometimes you do have like black cis women yelling out protect the dolls, but at the same time they're like, oh, the dolls are men, because I think we learn to show support and then oppress ourselves. Show support and oppress ourselves. And I think it's just a vicious cycle. And I think that it starts there because, yeah, we need everyone else to see us, but if our own community can't see us, well, then I think that can create a bigger issue, one bigger than the one we already have on our hands.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's
one
the
thing.
Yeah, keep going.
One thing that I see very often, you know, being a trans black woman in Puerto Rico,
Mm-hmm.
and you see en Bayamón and Carolina and lugares cerca de ahí, they're always attacking trans women because they feel as though, you know, oh, they're just so out there, they're just so proud. Nunca son los unos que se ve blanco, siempre son los unos que se ve negra, que son negras. Like, they don't have a problem killing the black trans ones, and those are the only ones that I'm used to seeing on the news. Versus, I know for a fact, in Puerto Rico, we have a lot more que son más blanco that are transgender, and they don't get attacked. People really don't say much. You know, it's a completely different connotation cuando viene a ellos contra nosotros.
Yeah.
And I hate that to say it's not just in America, it's all over the world.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, it's like this impossible game because it really is black trans women that have led all these queer movements all around the world in so many different cultures and societies. And it's like, yeah, even when we think about popular Puerto Rican like trans women, like they're all very, very white. And like that's the truth. Very white. Very few look like you, very few look like me, and it's like that's just so it also just says so much about like social media and like who really is allowed to be seen, and that even under everything, like blackness is still seen as ugly, as a threat, as not attractive. Like you could literally be trans, but as long as you're white trans, you could still make it, and that's still fuckery right there.
I think also what happens here is the more passable black trans women don't really, you know, always project that they're trans out of fear that they might get killed, you know? And so therefore, you have a lot of trans women here that you can say are black and passable, so they don't really tell a lot of people. And it's, you know, and a lot of people will say that it's not for people to know anyway unless you're, you know, having sex with one of them. So, but I think it's just crazy on how, you know, a lot of white trans people, they're not afraid to say, mira, yo soy trans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they come out and they feel safe, they feel community, they feel like, oh, well, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
Contra las negras, que son trans, and then faltan todo. Faltan comunidad, faltan apoyo, faltan de todo. And it's different, you know?
Yeah. That's really when you start to see the difference within the trans community is like who is more comfortable, especially when we're talking specifically about like dating culture, that being like who's more comfortable to openly say that that they're trans and shit, because it's like it's that game of like damn. And I don't know, it's really crazy too, because I've talked to a lot of guys in the past and even now, and it's like the amount of times that straight cis guys are like, oh no, yeah, I would get with a trans girl if she actually looked like a woman. And it's like shit like that too, because it's like there's so much societal pressure on all ends for trans women, especially black trans women, to look a certain way and to like hide that they're trans, because at the end of the day, like that's literally a part of the whole male gaze. Like these men themselves, they're like, oh, like as long as you look like a specific type of woman, you're fine. And it's like, yo, like this is insane, because it's very clear that the definition of gender could be moved and changed, but only certain people are allowed to change it. And only for a certain amount of time, too, because once that hookup is over, now it's like we got to go back to, quote-unquote, what is normal.
Well, of course, especially because gender is a social construct, and a lot of people like to pretend like it's not, and like, oh, no, gender has always been around. Yeah, amongst white people, amongst Europeans, because before that, all over the world, any places that have indigenous tribes, even ones that hate transgenders in Africa now, because even in Africa we have transgenders and they were widely accepted before Christianity and colonization.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, everyone has had their third gender or words to describe people like that, and it has never been a not empowering thing. People who embody the physical and the masculine have always been revered up in indigenous communities. So, therefore, now we have gender constructs, and now we have to put ourselves in these gender confirming boxes, and that's where it all starts at. Because why does it have to be like that? That's only going to further the issue, Especially because, there's a lot of trans people, but we mainly it's the trans women that get attacked. Trans men don't get attacked as much, especially down here in Puerto Rico. I've seen it all the time where a trans woman can walk up in the building and niggas start talking and shit, and they're like, no, es a fucking desgraciado, es de esto. And then a trans man do it, and they have nothing to say.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And so I think that's what's wrong with the world right now. Everyone has their vision of what gender should be and what people should look like and how people should act and how they should identify.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the fucker because it really shows that, like, even society still accepts, like, feminine-looking men and softer-looking men. Not to say that trans men are women, but it's like, at the end of the day, when we look at what we look at, it's like, that's why it's so hard to be a black trans woman, because blackness, our black features, is so striking, it's so strong, and in European eyes, it's masculine. Anything that's black is masculine. So it's like, it's difficult, especially when it's naturally in a lot of cultures, AMABs are larger, our shoulders are larger, we naturally look more muscular. It's like, shit like that is so out of our control, and because in a lot of cultures, AMABs are meant to look physically large, it's like, you can't run away from that sometimes, even if it is passing, because it's like it can get clockable sometimes.
Literally. And I don't think it's always about features, I think as black people and trans black people, we've had to defend ourselves to a degree that it's like we can say something and they're like, oh yeah, that gotta be a trans woman because she's so aggressive, she's so mean. And it's like, literal, no. It's like I'm defending myself as a woman because you feel like you're gonna disrespect me, and you feel like cis women will allow you to disrespect them, and so you feel like I'm more masculine, and I come off as more masculine because voy a defenderme. Mm-hmm. I will always defend myself until I die. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's not even into those situations where you're verbally, not with even like, how they say that, also like trans women, they have very deep voices. You don't have to have a deep voice. Your voice can get fish and they're still going to think you're trans. When the moment that you start defending yourself, literally, the moment that you start being like, well, no, you're not going to talk to me like that, or, anything like that.
La verdad. It always just goes back to like blackness in so many ways, and it's like, I don't know. Tell me more about how you deal with like racism in Puerto Rico and navigating that, because it's like we live in such colonized islands, and especially Puerto Rico, that in a lot of ways it really is the United States of America. It's like, how do you reconcile with that? Like, still trying to be Borinquen versus, like, living on an island that is being forced to be, like, Miami and Texas. Like,
Pues vamos a empezar aquí. So my mother is an Afro-Indigenous woman with Taino roots as well, with Latino roots as well. My father es de Puerto Rico, and era como un hombre blanco, puedes decir. And so, yo mudé de Puerto Rico cuando yo tuve 2 años. And I moved to Detroit. And at that point in Detroit, it was only blacks and whites. You didn't see a lot of Puerto Rican communities at that time. You didn't see a lot of Latino communities at that time. So
that was in early 2000.
That was, what I say my age, like 99, like 1999.
99, yeah, okay.
So early 2000s, yeah. And it was only black and white at that time. And every school I had went to, actually, I was a minority because I had already known my race, you know. And so I went to an all-white school, and I was one of three black students. One was black because they were African, another one was black, they were from India, and then I'm black from Puerto Rico. But we're all minorities in this school of all white people. And so therefore, of course, I got called tarmac, I called monkey, gorilla, nighttime. You know, they made the jokes when the lights went off in the classroom as we're about to go out for recess or as we're about to go to lunch. Like, and Amaïs, where are you? I can't see you. You know, or
wow, yeah. I've
had, even at such a young age, because I was very young at that time still, they would make jokes about how I'm going to grow up and be a thief and I'm going to steal stuff or everyone check your backpacks.
Yeah, wow.
And so then after that, I want to say like maybe when I was 12, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. And Memphis, Tennessee is very segregated. So los morenos viven aquí, los blancos aquí, los mexicanos aquí, los chinos aquí. And so everyone had their barrio donde vivieron. And of course we all went to school together, but really you still saw few mixed race people, you know. I got to hang out with other races, but because I forced myself to be in there, I wasn't socially accepted as a Puerto Rican. A lot of Puerto Ricans or Latinos in general, they've never been to their home countries. And so therefore for a long time, people would say, we don't have your color in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
¿Y cómo sabe? Porque nunca has ido. You've never been.
That's crazy.
And so I think it's so crazy for people that have never been to their home country to try to coach me on the country I was born into, that I know my class now. You know, it's crazy. And even in Memphis at that time, once again, my school only had maybe 3 Puerto Ricans in total. Top 6.
Wow.
And so therefore, Memphis at the time was more of a Mexican, Honduran state, you know? And then other Latino nationalities were less, you know, less known of, less seen. And so I got to hang out with very few Puerto Ricans. And me, I wasn't raised in Puerto Rican culture like that because I was raised with Colombians and Hondurans and Mexicans and all the other Latinos. But I made sure I stayed in my Latino community. But I also, once again, I was never black enough to be with the blacks. And I was never Latino enough to be with the Latinos. Never indigenous enough to be with the indigenous people. So it was always segregation for me. And it caused an identity inside of me. Like, I'm like, well, do I really know who the fuck I am? And then mi mamá siempre me ha dicho, she said, mira, te ves negra, pues mejor que tú la identificas negra. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm not being true to myself. If I just say, hey, like, I'm people say, where are you from? And I just go, I'm from here, I'm black. I feel like then I'm really giving into these stereotypes that black people can't be anything other or from anywhere else other than America. you know, or America or Africa. And so then I had to deal with racism there also, but from cops. Because at that point, Memphis was so racist, and the majority of the police force at that time was so white. And then you got pulled over if you were in the mall and you looked like you were stealing. They did not hesitate to throw you on the ground. They did not hesitate to check you. They did not hesitate to call you a racial slur as they were trying to accuse you of stealing something or doing something wrong or about to do something wrong, you know? So it was always physical racism and verbal racism. And then I moved to Texas, and Texas was Dallas, Texas. And was the first place that I ever saw, like, interracial couples like that. Like white and black people, Latinos and black people. It was just a culture shock for me, and I was just in awe that two different races could really be in a relationship without criticism.
Wow, yeah.
But not to say that there wasn't no racism there, because I also trabajé mucho lugares, and you know, the moment that a white person is upset, te van a llamar a tu nombre. I'm over here getting called nigger. Oh, nigger, where's this at? Like, excuse me. I got a name tag, and my name tag says my name is Amaïs. But then you let yourself fight back, and now you're a mad black woman.
Yeah.
And so then I got so depressed living in America, and I'm a spiritual person. And so I always listened to the signs, and my ancestors were telling me, and all the signs were pointing for me to move back to Puerto Rico, and so I did. So if I had to judge Puerto Rican racism versus American racism, Puerto Rican racism doesn't really affect me that much. Because when it comes to being black here, it means that they think you're Dominican. It means they think you're Cuban. And so, you know, that's the majority of what I get. Like, I can go and I can aplicar por algo. And me van a preguntar, ¿dónde está tu tarjeta verde? And I'm like, tarjeta verde, ¿de qué tú hablas? Tú eres dominicana, ¿verdad? No.
Wow.
Tú eres cubana, entonces, no, brasileña.
Wow.
No. And I'm like, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm from here. And then, you know, when it comes to my skin tone, they always try to take me apart.
Wow, yeah.
And so they listen for my accent and they look at my features. And so they'll be like, your accent doesn't sound like you're from here. And I'm like, not to sound like I'm a flex, but baby, I speak 4 languages. The accent is not going to give Puerto Rican, nor is it going to give any other countries that I tell you that I speak their languages, because I speak so many. And so there's that. And then they be like, okay, well, you're too tall. You're too tall to be Puerto Rican. Not a lot of Puerto Ricans are tall. First of all, in 2025, and in a campo, a lot of us are very tall. I feel like I have gone places in Puerto Rico, and I'm the shortest fucking motherfucker there, and I'm 6 feet tall. So that means everyone else is like 6 feet and above. And so for me, it's like, oh, you try to find ways to destruct my ethnicity, where I come from, And so they'd be like, okay, but your skin tone. So because of your skin tone, you can't be full Puerto Rican. First of all, let's talk about how the Caribbean diaspora, none of us are full anything. Exactly. So no, if I'm Puerto Rican by Puerto Rican standards, Puerto Rico means that I am Spaniard, I am also Taina, I am also African. So already we're a mix. La República Dominicana, mix. Cuba, mix. And so therefore, it's like you try to tell me I have blacker features, but Puerto Ricans have black features. Of course, you have the me no blacks here, but no, sweetheart, you're black. We have the same nose, and your nose is a little bit wider than me, which is typically an African feature. So, you know, although you got your white skin, you're giving albino. You know, you're giving black as well. So for you to sit up here and try to judge me and tell me what I'm not is crazy. So,
100%.
so I would say just in those aspects, it's trying to tell me how I'm not Puerto Rican is really the only racism I get. I haven't had anyone call me like monkey or anything like that, but also being trans, being black and being indigenous, you already know we're fetishized. And so when someone calls you negra, they're not saying it in like oh, I love your skin tone. They're saying, yeah, I love your skin tone, but really I want to bed you. Like, I'm trying to have sex because your skin turns me on. I want to dominate a black person. I want to know what it's like, you know? And so it's different because then we're seen as an exotic in a different way.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. And even thinking about, like, I feel like it's so internally white supremacist of us to be like, oh, you're not Puerto Rican enough, you're not Dominican enough, because it's like, again, what really does that mean? And it's this colonized mentality that we have within all of us that we're trying to whiten our own cultures and give it this monolith, this one title. And it's like, that's what's so problematic, because for me, I see that as a systemic tactic that white people implemented in our societies so that we can literally delete our own cultures without them even being in the room. Because you see it all the time. It's like, it's the way that minorities can rip each other apart. Like, it is crazy. Like, we can do that without a problem. Like, point out every single flaw, that we're not Dominican enough, that we're not this enough, and just go in, like, ruthless. And it's like, yo, like, we gotta stop and think, where the hell did we learn this shit? And it really is the former slave owners. Like, this shit is crazy.
Literally. You just see so much of it here. But don't get me wrong, like, you do have a lot of people that do understand. They're quick to tell you, like, I make black jokes, but, like, my daddy is just as black as you, or my grandmother is just as black as you are. So a lot of them understand that that we do come from Africa, that a lot of us originate from Africa, you know. And so I tend to, because I'm from Ponce originally, and in Ponce, like, there's a big black community. You do see a lot of people with my skin tone there, but people think that, oh, it's very rare. You know, go to Loíza. And what's crazy is Loíza is one of the blackest places in all of Puerto Rico. But the problem is that even they have been mixing a lot to where you will see a lot more, you know, whiter tone people. Still, the black color is still dominant there. But you will start seeing other whiter tones there. And so it's just, I agree, like, we're being watered down and losing a lot of our culture and not knowing what it means to do this and stand up for this and where this comes from. You know, you have a lot of people that want to dance bomba, you know, and they don't understand what it means. You know, they understand, like, oh my God, like, it's Puerto Rican, so therefore I dance it because it's Puerto Rican.
Literally.
But back in the day, people knew what it meant to dance bomba y plena. You understand that you're dancing that for your ancestors, that bomba comes from West Africa. It's a dance that was brought over with our ancestors when they got here. And it was a way for us to express ourselves, to keep our culture there. You know, because when we used to pray back to the Orishas in Africa, we did so. We celebrated our ancestors and the Orishas with dance. We understand that the drums are meant to represent the heartbeat of the earth. We know that when you first start dancing, when you raise your arms in different directions, it's because you're doing it to your ancestors. There is a lot of history there that has been wiped down and erased just because it's popular. A lot of people say, I'm Puerto Rican, but do you know what that means?
Word.
Everyone is super, hueva, yo soy boricua, para que tú lo sepas. But you're boricua in what instinct? Because you're from here? Because also to be from here is to know your culture. And if you don't know your culture, are you really Puerto Rican? Ethnically, yes. But then nationality, how can you identify and self-identify as something that you don't even know what you are?
And I feel like also part of being Puerto Rican, part of being anything is having the cultural knowledge to pass it down. Because like you just said, like, how can you literally be Puerto Rican if you have nothing to pass down? Like, that's what makes us Puerto Rican forever. That's what makes us Caribbean forever, is that ability to pass down that culture, those traditions. And it's like, that's something, especially as a dancer, I try my best to always keep in the forefront. Because, por ejemplo, it was Puerto Rican folks that taught me how to dance bomba y plena. And it's like, one of the first things they taught me was that you're always have to begin by bowing towards the direction of the drums, because without the drums there is no balance, because the drums is that connection with the ancestors and the earth and you and your body. So it's like, es una cosa que como que es bien sagrado, and it's something that there is a level of reverence and sacredness that is lost in our cultures, because we're just here like, oh no, yeah, como tú dijiste, es una huepa, like, let's get the drinks, let's shake our ass. And it's like, yes and no, because it's like, what? Just because we have music, just because we're black, just because we require our hips to move, does not mean that we can't enter the space with the same reverence that all these Catholics do when they go to church, that all these politicians do when they go to Congress, that everyone is all formal, whatever. It doesn't have to be formal, but there's a level of respect. There's a level of, okay, this is a relationship. This drum and me, that's a relationship. The music, that's a relationship. And there needs to be a level of respect. And it's like, that's not passed down as much from generation to generations, you know.
And that's the problem as well, because not only that, but people think because maybe they're white toned and their grandmother was black. I mean, yes, you're still black, but also to feel so comfortable making black jokes, and then your scapegoat not be, I'm black, my grandmother is black. Well, then you're really not understanding what you are. Because by abuela siendo negra, tú también eres negra. It doesn't matter, because that's our culture, that's our people. But like, for example, when it's Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
and when we start celebrating all the Black Fridays, Martin Luther King Day, and stuff like that, they'll joke on how I can't have that day free. Oh, so that's a joke to you, but to me, it hurts.
Yeah.
You know, because I was raised in both places. I have history in both places. I have indigenous blood from both places. So therefore, when you hear people talking like that, it's kind of like, damn, like, you're so up in your white bag, your Spanish colonizer side, that you can't understand the other two parts of you. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm proud Taino, and you know, African until I die. I know where I come from in Africa. I know where my Taino ancestors come from, and you know, I'm not going to sit up and you know, claim my Spanish side like that, because hello, I think enough people do that, and I think that's the problem. Is everybody's ready to colonize, because we also have these white standards. Like, for the longest time, like, I will say some things have changed, because cuando yo he mudado a Puerto Rico, para trabajar a Puerto Rico para la primera vez, yo fui para buscar a alguien que pueda hacer mi pelo, and everyone was like, we don't know how to braid. Mm. Or, I don't think I can grab your hair like that. Like, I'm going to have to flat iron it, blow dry it, and all these other things just so that I can grab it, because you have pelo malo. Wow. And I'm like, and so, literally in the U.S., I never learned how to do my own hair like that. It was very rarely that I ever would do my own hair. I would have somebody braid it for me, and then maybe I can crochet it myself, or something like that. But I did not know how to wash my hair, treat my hair, love my hair. Same. And not just as an indigenous woman, but as an African woman. Our hair is also sagrado. Mm-hmm. It's an extension of us. Mm-hmm. You know, in African communities, we talk about how our hair is sacred and it grows to the trees. But they learned how to nourish their hair. They learned how to nourish their ancestors through their hair, because like the tree roots, we are the ground and our hair is the roots that creates the leaves that come out and stick up into the air. That's something sacred. That's something about us, and then indigenous communities, for all the times that they made us cut our hair and that they told us that we couldn't grow it, we grow it now. It's a connection to our ancestors. It's a connection to our life. And so with that being said, for you to sit up here and call my hair an omalo, when I already am self-conscious about my hair, when America and South America already tells me, look, go ahead, girl, get the Dominican blowout. Put that perm in your hair. Make it straight so that it can be more manageable, so that it can be more accepted by society. No. And after I realized, like, nobody here will be able to do my hair, that's when I told myself, like, no, look, Amaïs, we got to learn how. Because also, I started going through my transition when I moved to Puerto Rico. And so, therefore, I had just been growing my hair out. I didn't have really any hair. And so when my hair started getting longer, and there wasn't anything I could do with it because I was like, oh, my God, I can't grip this. I don't know what to do. I can't just throw a wig on it. No one ever taught me how to be a woman. No one ever taught me how to love myself.
Yeah.
No one ever taught me how to love my color. I taught everything that I am proud of to this day. Nationality, ethnicity, hair, color, everything about myself. I taught myself how to love that part about me.
Same. I felt that.
It's such a real thing because no one's ever going to do that. You're going to go to places and they're going to down talk your hair. And it always starts with your hair first. Then they're going to down talk your hair. And so I learned how to do my hair. That way when I step into any room, when I go to any event, my hair is done. You're not going to say that black people are messy on my part. You're not going to say that a las negras siempre llegan y apestan y se ve mal, el pelo siempre se ve mal. No, my hair is always done. Even on the days that I choose to wear it in an afro, it's a beautiful afro, and that's a part of me. If you don't like afros, I'm sorry, but guess what? That's a reflection of me. Afros have a meaning. They hold power. And so if you even think about back in America during the 70s and the 60s when everyone started wearing afros and stuff, it was a form of power. It was never something that you could oppress. And so thinking that you're going to oppress me because my hair looks like that is crazy. So therefore I allow myself not to take that part and allow it to bother me. So then next thing you know, they say, oh, you're a little bit too dark. Or they make jokes about, you're black, so you can be in the sun longer. And I'm like, oh, okay. I understand that you're so white that you might get skin cancer if you step outside. Well, that's not my problem. But trying to make it seem like I'm tan negra to the point where it's a bad thing, it will never be a bad thing for me to be black. So therefore, you can talk about my skin all day, but the way that it vibrates the moment I step out underneath the sun, where I feel like I'm glistening, where I feel like you can truly see how my sun absorbs and creates energy around me through the sunlight, through my skin, you can never make me feel bad about that.
Period.
Now, when they start talking about features and stuff like that, like you'll have a lot of people that will come up to me, and it's different for everybody, but for me specifically, the African nose is what you hear everyone talk about. Well, not with me. People will always say, well, you don't have a black nose, and that's the only thing that makes me feel like you are Puerto Rican, because you don't have that black nose. Your eyes aren't really black either. You have very Asian eyes. But you do got big lips. And then don't let you have big lips, girl, because then they call them bimbes. And they want to know what that mouth do. And they over-sexualize your mouth. And then how big your lips are and all those features that are typically to be more African, now you're sexualizing my features. Oh, you have thick hips. That's another reason. They say you have thick hips and a big butt. That's not a Caribbean feature. No, is it not? Is it not? Oh, it's because your butt is so big and your thighs are so big. I think a lot of people forget that Barbados, Bahamas is also in the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, Haiti. We all have big hips.
We do.
So it actually is a Caribbean thing. Because once again, mixed with African ancestors, hello, I am my mother's child. And so, thick hips, thick ass, thick everything, and that's just me. I was raised a cornbread, collard green girl, but I was also a fucking pastel, empanadilla, and con gandules red girl as well. So you can never diminish me, and I think Puerto Ricans will try to pick you apart, and I think that's the type of racism that you will encounter here. Especially if you're proud to be Puerto Rican. They'll be like, how are you Puerto Rican? And not just in Puerto Rico, but also in the Dominican Republic, we're starting to see a lot of gentrification.
Claro.
So much gentrification where, for instance, when Puerto Rico had more Puerto Ricans here, and after Hurricane Maria and things like that, we were more of a community. And so then, did you know that during Puerto Rican, the Day of Independence in Puerto Rico was one of the most celebrated days in Puerto Rico, and not only that, you would see people take to the streets all the time. There would be protests on these days. There would be celebrations. It would be a day of love, community, and everything. Now, you barely see activities like that in Puerto Rico on the Day of Independence.
Wow.
But then, you got people going ham for the 4th of July. We're not even a country that should celebrate the 4th of July because that doesn't represent us as much as the Independence Day. Right. But the more American holidays are so loved over here. And the white people love that. They will come out here for Christmas. They go ham over here for Christmas. They come over here for Thanksgiving, and they want to know where can they go to get some good Thanksgiving food. Well, boo, you're not gonna like this. We got seasoning over here, and so.
Wow.
Puerto Rico used to be very proud, and that's what I say, that Puerto Ricans say "wepa, wepa, wepa" all day and love to be Puerto Rican, but you don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
You don't know the happiness and the sadness that the Day of Independence in Puerto Rico carries.
That's the thing that I don't like about how Caribbeans in general are seen as, like, we're not even allowed. Not to say that we all gotta be sad, but we're not allowed to be sad. We're not allowed to hold the real parts of our culture. And it's like, even our own people don't even want to think about it. And it's just like, listen, this is our reality. The racism, the oppression, the colonization, the fact that so many parts of our culture is actually very white and whitewashed. And the only times that Caribbeans really can enjoy their indigeneity and their blackness is only in music or on TV and in entertainment, when spaces that are literally seen as made up or performative. And that's so sad because, like, it really pushed all of our genuine shit into one corner.
Literally. And I think if you really think about it, not even really have to think about it because it's so seen on how people will tell you all the time about they say it here in Puerto Rico, but you hear more out there in the States where white people will tell you, black people are so mad, but slavery ended so long ago.
They used to tell me that shit all the time.
But it didn't. It was over, I think it was 200 and something years ago that slavery ended. And then after slavery, I think that they forget that that's just what they wrote down, because there were still a lot of plantations that they had to go and physically shut down and let them know that slavery is no longer a legal thing. And so for many years after that, there were still plantations. And then let's go to, now we got our freedom. Okay, bam, segregation. But you better not look at that white woman. You better not touch that white woman. You better not even speak, breathe near that white woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was, and we can check this later, 61 years ago. 61 years ago that segregation ended.
Yeah, it was recent. It was definitely less than 70.
Exactly. I know it's 60 or 61.
Mm-hmm.
Most are 62. 62 in January.
Mm.
But it hasn't been that long ago. Most of our grandparents and our great-grandparents lived through that. So therefore, if my grandmother can talk about what it was like to grow up during that time, it's still very much recent.
And also, like, something that a lot of people don't understand, and, like, this is why I get so annoyed, because I'm like, no one studies Caribbean history. Pero, por ejemplo, when slavery ended, like, people need to, again, like what you said, read what they wrote down. Because, yes, okay, you couldn't own slaves, but do people know that if you so long as house the slave, the person, somewhere that was considered a home and gave them X amount of food a day, you know they weren't considered a slave? So technically speaking, it was legal. So this is the fuckery part. The fuckery part is, for example, in Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, they literally went to India to bring Indians and give them house. They gave them housing, they gave them food, and they did pay them. But they were considered indentured servants. So it's like, you can literally look at the numbers. Like, you can literally look at the numbers. You can go to Guyanese history books right now, Trinidadian history books right now, and it will literally show you that the year that slavery ended, the next year after that, there was such an influx of 100% Indians from India that came to the country, and they became indentured servants and laborers. So it's like, what... You know what I mean? It's just like even the whole slavery over thing is just bullshit. Because it's like, slavery was not fucking over. And at the end of the day, if I was this rich, powerful person with a plantation, you really think that I'm gonna let something like that just slide over 1 year? Think about that. Like, for real. Like, if I was a business person and I'm over here, McDonald's, for example, you really think McDonald's is gonna let some shit like that happen from 1 year to the next? That's impossible. They will lose so much money. Let's literally think like them. Like, nobody would let that happen. Nobody. I wouldn't let that happen. You wouldn't let that happen. If it was your business, you would not let that shit happen. So that's even more white supremacy of this illusion that, oh yeah, freedom, slavery is over. Even the whole, like, recently, there's a International Day of Abolishment of Slavery that we just celebrated. It was like early December. And even when I saw that, I was just like, what the hell does that even mean? there is literally slavery in every country in this planet. Like, every country has slavery. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's wild.
I hate to hear people talk about why black people should get over, but they still treat us shitty in every country.
Every single one.
In every country. It doesn't matter. We will always be seen as something bad in so many countries. Do you know how many people here que yo lo conocí, and I had to decolonize their minds? Because y'all watch American movies and they see, oh, you know, black people robbing places there, black people are bad, oh, black people do this, oh, black people do that. Because that's the thing that you see on the news all the time,
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, it became such a thing where until so many Afro-Puerto Ricans, Afro-Cainos started standing up and saying, look, that's not us. That does not represent us. Just like not all white people can be rapists, well, not all black people, not to mention that we're a minority and we are always, always outdone by the white people.
Always.
So therefore, for them to be like, oh, well, you know, it's black people, this black people, I had to tell people, like, you have me entirely fucked up. It's time to work on yourself if you believe that that's what it means to be black. If that's why you don't want to connect with your black roots, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Dominicans are the same way. They have such a negative outlook of African Americans here. Like, Dominicans here 100% are like, oh, like, you know, I want to move to the U.S., but I don't want to be around African Americans because, like, they're just too much. I'm not trying to have my kids be around and become delinquents. Like, they flat out say this. And I'm like, what do you think you are? Like, like, and then they be talking like that, and I'm just like, you do realize that a majority of Americans believe that the Caribbean is a shithole, right? And that includes the Dominican Republic. Like, What?
Literally.
Like, what do you... This high and mighty bullshit. I'm like, yo, what?
Like, we can even talk about as far back... Okay, let's talk about my mother's side. My mother's side is one of the earliest Americans. She's a Mulligan. And a lot of people don't even know what that is, but a Mulligan seemed to be the first mixed race of America. So I come from the Goings line. The Goings line is they always refer to themselves as Portuguese Indians, right? And a lot of the Goings were mixed from Caribbean blood because a lot of white people, they went and they had the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans, the Virgin Islands, Bahamas, always working for coffee or plantains or whatever the fuck, always something that they were forcing them to do on these plantations in the Caribbean. And so therefore a lot of my ancestors were brought from the Caribbean to America. A lot of my Taino ancestors, a lot of my black ancestors brought from the Caribbean to America. And then that's how my Mulligan line got mixed with all of this Caribbean blood. So therefore for you to think that there is no African that you can pretend like the slave trade didn't happen all the time, but my blood, my ancestors say different. And a lot of people are like, I don't have any black, but then they do their DNA test and it comes back for Western Bantu people, or it comes back Nigerian, or it comes back Congolesian, Senegambian, Gambia. Like, come on now, no. Go ahead and understand that you have black, and this isn't like in America, but they're 1%. A lot of Puerto Ricans are 5% and up all the time.
Very black.
And then 1% of genetics is still a very hefty percent because that's all they could trace through you. But if you and your twin sister both get tested, one of y'all is going to come back more than something than the other. So understand that you're more black than you think you are. A lot of white people don't understand that. Yeah, they got curls and shit down, but it's because somewhere down there you got a black ancestor. So I always tell anyone from the Caribbean that's whitewashed, they think they don't got no black. Baby, your hair tells a story. Because your mama shit bone straight. So therefore, somewhere on your daddy's side, you got black in there. And that's okay. Be proud of it. Understand that. Okay, you got these deep brown eyes. You got these black nose. You have stronger shoulders. That's your black features, baby. Be proud of that. No, not try to bring other people down. And like I said, Puerto Rico has been making a change because we do have a lot more people that through the Afro-Latino movement understood, like, no, I am beautiful as an Afro-Latino and I stand up for my Afro-Latino indigeneity. And so you do see more. We also have the Afro-Latino Festival. But even that, like, is watered down because you will go there and only one day they're dancing bomba and the other day they're dancing salsa. Salsa was founded into by Africans.
Wow.
So you can't celebrate Africa and your African roots without knowing where your roots come from, first of all. And then second, without understanding you are all of what your ancestors make up. I tell people all the time that your DNA is only a part of it. Because when you take the DNA test, you're not seeing everything that you are and you're not seeing every country that you come from. It's important to do your family tree and understand your roots. So just me being my color here, I do feel safer physically than when I was in the U.S. In the U.S. and in Texas and in Memphis, I was, you could say, damn near hunted like I was a sport. The amount of times that I had to run from the cops because they assumed I was doing something. I remember one time in Memphis, me rompí una uña, and eso era la única uña que yo tuve that was long. And the cops pulled me over because they tried to say, oh, Amaïs, like you're crossing the street. They tried to say I was jaywalking, although literally I was centimeters away from the other spot of it.
Wow.
From the crosswalk. And then they pulled over. Both the cops got out of the car. Both of them. It's 11 o'clock at night. I was a manager. I had to close the store by myself. I had on a all black outfit because that's what we had to wear. And so they pulled me over and they started looking me up and down. And they tried to look for weapons. They tried to say, why are you dressed like that? Where are you coming from? And then they tried to say, like, why is your 1 nail longer? Do you do cocaine? Do you do drugs? And I was like, sir, I broke my fucking nail. Like, this is literally because I broke my fucking nail. And I have one of the worst fucking problems. When I get pulled over by the police, my English, it goes away. I get this thick-ass accent, and I cannot speak English for the fucking damn. And then they're like, where the fuck are you from?
Yeah, that's real. No, I get that. That's real.
Yeah, because you don't know what happens. And so therefore, your body goes in a fight or flight mode. You can't think.
Yep.
English is not my fucking first language. despite what the Americans think, and despite what the fucking Puerto Ricans here think. Sadly, my first language was Russian. Yeah.
See.
I was raised by a Russian woman. When my father gave up and my mother left me. So it was...
Wow.
She helped raise me for a while I was in the street. I would go over her house, she would feed me, she would tell me stories about what it was like to live in Russia at that time and why she left, and how she ended up in America. And so my first language was Russian. And as I was growing up, obviously, I learned English in there from my adopted family side and also from the people that were just around me. And so after that, then I learned Spanish, and then I learned German, Portuguese, and a little bit of Arabic. And during that time, obviously, I learned English throughout that time. So therefore, it has always been a thing for me, no matter where I was, to when I get nervous or something, for me to freeze up, and then all of a sudden you get this random ass accent come out of this black body, and you're like,
wow.
Are you?
I can only imagine. Wow, you really take trans to a whole new level. Because you do, like your body possesses so many things. It's just so, wow, it really is a vessel.
And I think no one ever talks about what the struggle is like pre-transition. Like, everyone thinks that, that you can't be born wanting to be a woman. But in my case, it was always like that. Siempre era así. And I remember as being like, even like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I'm playing house with another man and I want to be mommy. I'm holding the baby. I'm like, let's go shopping. Put the baby in the shopping cart.
Yeah, same girl.
Like, come on, like. And then they say it's a mental illness. So I was born with this mental illness. Oh, okay. So obviously, when you're black, and everyone knows this, being black is, and then coming out as gay is the worst fucking thing that you could have did in the early 2000s and the early
worst
1900s.
thing.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You will get abandoned, or you will get beat. You will get disowned.
It's just not worth it.
Leave that I no police can say no. And so I gay since I was young. I gave feminine. I was one of those kids that you saw in my mama's hill holding her purse. That was me. And so therefore, my mother, she would always take me, and I remember she had this red van, and she would always ask me, hey, like, are you gay? And I would be like, no. And she'd be like, well, let me explain so you understand what that is. Do you have sentimientos for another boy? And I'm like, no. In my mind, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, hell yeah. Like, that boy yesterday was looking pretty cute. But of course, like, on AM, I'm going to be like, no, because I already knew what it was going to be like.
And we're smart like that. Father? That's the thing of being a black kid, though. When you're a black kid in the society, we smart. So we're like, no.
Literally, you're going to disown it until, like, you get some kind of freeness. Or you just can't hold it in anymore.
We're not going to get beat.
Literally. And I lived in Detroit when it was one of the most dangerous places to live. When
Detroit is no joke,
one of the
bro.
most dangerous places to live in America at that time.
Detroit is no joke. That shit is the ghetto. Oh my God.
And so you think I'm about to come out there like that? My gun-toting ass adopted father? No. You think he would have threw me down the fucking stairs for fun? He did it for fun anyway. So imagine what he would have did if I came out at that age. Ooh.
Ya tú sabes.
And so therefore, like, then I grew up and I was heavily Christian. So therefore, the Bible was my life.
Same. I was reading that Bible every week.
You got cut out for a minute there. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now? It's out, bro. I can't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, now you can hear me. Okay, no, sigue. Sigue hablando.
And on top of that, being so Christian, you tell yourself, oh my God, like, I can't be gay. Like, I'm going to go to hell. Like, I'm going to burn up and go to hell. And so no one talks about what that's like. So then you create this thing where you get depressed and you want to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Because you're afraid that everything you do is going to be a sin and that you're going to burn for it. And that God will no longer love you and that your family is going to always, look, they're going to try to pray over you. They're going to try to change you. Conversion counsel is a heavy thing, and it's still a heavy thing in the U.S. to this day. And so you never knew where that was going to go. And so therefore, I'm ready to kill myself. I'm like, you know what? This life isn't worth living because I know that I don't like women. But even then, I would try. Because for the Bible, for my religion, for my parents, I'm going to try to be straight. And so here I am dating girls, but it never did anything for me. It couldn't make anything rise. It couldn't make me happy. It couldn't excite me for nothing. I could kiss a girl all day. But I don't have those feelings that it takes to be in a relationship, to create a family. And so then as I got older, that's when I started playing in makeup a little bit more, even behind my mother's back, like doing my eyebrows, doing makeup, with my hair, and she would be like, stop that shit, because my mother eventually moved to Memphis, and when I got old enough, I ended up moving with her to Memphis. And so I moved with her to Memphis when I was, I want to say 12 or 13 years old. And through the time that I was over there in high school, I already knew what I was. And so at that time, yeah, I had really been dating men, being in a relationship with men, knowing that that's not me. Because in middle school, I had my relationship with men, but I've also had relationships with women enough to know that, like, okay, look, in high school, we just gonna be real. We gonna be openly gay, because we don't got time to be over here trying to fool these girls into thinking that we're not that. And so I went from being straight to being openly bisexual to being openly gay, but knowing that the whole time, like, no, like, I want to be a woman and I like men. And so then it got to a point where I hated being in men's clothes. It just gave me gender dysphoria so bad, to the point where I said, you know what? I'm androgynous. And that was my next title. I was gay androgynous. And so therefore, it was a different way for me to embody the masculine and the feminine and feel okay with people asking, because it was such a compliment to me in my androgynous phase when people go, are you a boy or a girl? Other people would upset, but to me, I'm like, okay, I'm serving fish. Like, you can't tell. You're questioning. And so I
used to love that about, like, my non-binary era. I was like, yes.
And I think that was, like, so crazy. And then, I worked at different places where being feminine, got an advantage, like Victoria's Secret. Being there, you selling bras and panties. And so me being androgynous and me bringing another layer to that, helped me just feel more secure with myself. And then on top of that, that's really when I started feeling like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and transition. Because at that point, I was in a relationship, and a lot of the dudes I had dated when I moved to Texas, they didn't allow me to call myself a man. They basically said, if you don't identify as that, if you don't look like that, then you shouldn't. And it helped me realize something about myself that, like, yeah, I'm holding myself back from transitioning, but why? And then one day I had a conversation with my mom and my grandmother, and I told them, like, I think I'm going to transition. And my grandmother said, you could be anything in this fucking world, but you better not be trans. Literally.
Yeah, wow.
And so then my mother also, she was like, no, like, trans, you don't want that. You don't want to do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. So many trans people they're unhappy with their lives. They detransition, da-da-da-da. And I said, okay, well, that's going to be them. I said, we're talking about all these other people, but I don't know what that means. I'm fine with being trans. I want to be trans. I know what I am. I know what I've been my whole life. And so I'm going into my 20s and stuff, still not being myself. Still not being my true, authentic self. And so therefore, when I moved to Puerto Rico finally, that's when I decided, like, I'm not going to let anything hold me back anymore. Like, I'm going to transition because it's time. I can't be happy in this male body. Like, I can't no longer look in the mirror and be happy with this mustache on my face and these low fades and high top fades and this six-pack flat chest body. I cannot be happy with that anymore. So therefore, I think it's time to make a change, because I'm not going to be able to survive much longer if I cannot be my true authentic self. And so that's what I had to do for myself. I had to go and transition and and I have been more happier than I have ever been throughout my whole entire life, living in my truth, because I know that this is what I needed. Just to see myself now versus when I first started. Like, you have to go in Puerto Rico, you have to go through counseling for at least a year. And so in 2020, also 2021, I was talking to a psychologist, and then finally, towards the end of 2021 is when they first started getting me started on estrogen and testosterone blockers. And I just felt amazing. And I felt like I was finally entering this new stage. And now looking back at me now, like, I got more meat on my bones, my arm thicker, I grew my own breast, my face looks softer. Like, this is finally the person that I know I was meant to be.
And how many years have you been on hormone therapy?
Since 2021, so 2020, 2022, 2023, 2024, like 5 years.
That's cool. I love that. Period.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's...
Sí, dígame.
No, I was going to say, I think it's important that if you really know this, if you know this about yourself, because some people, I do believe you need to take some time, because sometimes you a feminine boy and you want to be a feminine boy, but society tells you that you need to transition, and I think that's where things get crossed, and I think that's where we have people that transition, they detransition. No, you were always meant to be a feminine boy.
Yes, there's actually someone that I follow there, and I love them. They're black, they're a femboy, they're 18, and they're like this really smart influencer, and they eat that down. I'm like, I also want them on my podcast because they talk about this. They're like, yo, like, yes, there are black trans women, but there's also black femme boys that identify as he, him, not even they, them, like he, him, and we need to normalize femininity in black men. And it's like, period, because it's like, eso es tan importante también. Like, there's just gay femme boys, y ya, like, that's it. Like,
literally,
they don't want to be trans.
Nothing else.
They don't want to be trans. They don't want to be on estrogen. They don't want surgery. They just like makeup. They like being pretty boys. Ja. And I love that. Like, we need more of that. Like, you know.
It's because it's such a thing. Like I said, you know, I went through years of being androgynous. So makeup was my thing. Clothes was my thing. I had weave down my back. My nails stayed done. But that body did not match. And if I was just going to be a femme boy, I would be happy as being just that, a femme boy. I would have been happy. I would have known that's me. It took me to get to the point where I'm at now to realize, like, no, I was never meant to be a femboy. I was never meant to be, you know, anything else other than what I am currently today. No, and I would say, thankfully, I have gotten to a place in my transition where I barely have dysmorphia. You know, obviously, there's things I want to tweak, but it's not dysmorphia. It's just like, a little touch here, a little here, you know. And so, you know, I'm not disappointed at all with anything in my transition. And so, and being in Puerto Rico, going through my transition, I haven't really had problems.
Qué bueno.
Like, I was already like a very pretty feminine boy. So then all I did was transition into an even more beautiful black queen, you know. And so therefore, with that being said, I am more just me. Just more me. And I did go through a point where, you know, I did let people down talk to me in America, let my family get to me and tell me that, no, like, maybe you should undo what you're doing. And they did give me dysmorphia to a point, because then, you know, you do start thinking, is this what I want? And then just a week goes by and you're like, yeah, no, this is what I want. Like, this is what I not let's pick one out of it. This is what I need.
It's necessary. For
me to want to survive, for me to want to continue life, for me to want to continue breathing. This is what I needed.
It's this or nothing. I felt it.
Literally. And I think to any trans girl out there, any trans boy out there, if you are just fully unhappy in your body and you know that your soul does not align with what you see in the mirror, it is okay to transition. It is okay, and you have to stop caring about lo que dice la otra persona. They don't matter, because at the end of the day, you have to live your life. My mother is talking about, now all those struggles you have to deal with as a trans woman, was it worth it? Absolutely.
Because we all struggling regardless.
Literally. So therefore, for you to call me a tranny, for you to just talk about me in any way as a trans woman, it doesn't bother me.
It doesn't.
Because maybe before, when I was gay, calling me a faggot would have got you fuck off the map. But it's because I didn't feel like a faggot. I didn't feel gay. And I know a lot of gay people that take that word faggot and they turn it around. Yes, I am a faggot. And I would have definitely done that like I do with the word tranny. Tranny, transsexual, transvestite. You cannot offend me with these words. So that's my little aspect on it.
No, yes. I want to close out because I was thinking about, because you were already giving like advice to the trans kids, the future trans kids, and thinking about all the identities that you hold and how you had to literally just recreate yourself in so many ways. And again, thinking about nations and borders, and you've been in so many different places, like physically as well. Like, what advice would you give to folks who are juggling so much, not just in their life, but in their racial identities, their religious, cultural identities, y como que, you know, this very huge and scary leap of faith that we have to do as trans people of color, right? To begin this transition. And whatever that transition may look like for us. Pero, you know, what advice do you give people that are in this stage of independence and they're like, damn, I'm by myself and I want to do this, but I don't know if I can because I'm by myself. Like, what do you want to share? Any last thoughts?
So, as far as identity is just who you are. So, if before you transition and before you go through any transitional period, not just being transgender, but a transitional period in your life, you need to sit there in front of that mirror every day and talk about everything, not only that you dislike about yourself, but that you love the fuck down about yourself. Because before you can go through any transition, there will be times as a trans person that you hate the fucking person you see in the mirror because that dysmorphia will eat you the fuck up. And so you have to know who you are and you have to learn how to talk positively about yourself and talk about the things that you love. So before you go into your transition, it's okay to transition in the sense that you feel like this. So therefore you act on it and start putting on your woman's clothes and doing your hair and transitioning, before you start transitioning medically. Because you have to learn to love things about you. You need to learn to love what kind of clothes do you see on yourself. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself short hair, long hair? Do you see it dye, not dye? Do you see yourself natural or with surgeries? You have to go through these transitional phases first before you can go through the big medical transition. Then as far as identity, racially, the culture that you are raised in, if you identify with that culture, that's pretty much who you are. For me, I was raised in so many different cultures and my background is so heavily mixed that I just could not pick what to identify as. And so to this day, I identify as an Afro-Indigenous woman, but it's because my indigenous roots are me, you know. I am a proud Southern and Western Bantu woman. I'm a proud Taina. I am a proud Powhatan woman. I'm a proud Cherokee woman. I'm a proud Mulligan woman. And so with those things, that is me. So therefore, overall, I just call myself an Afro-Indigenous woman. But that's because there are still not words to describe how I see myself. Because honestly, I see myself as the greater divine. I'm a divine woman. And so with that being said, know who you are. Everything that you do in this life is about knowing who you are and the person that you see in that mirror. So that would be my message.
Oh, thank you, my love. And thank you for being on my podcast and chatting with me. This was very beautiful. And I really do think that this is going to be very informative and fruitful for my listeners to hear. So, muchísimas gracias, Ariko Mabu.
De nada. I hope so. And thank you for having me. I feel so honored.
Yes. Bueno, mi gente, there you have it. That was, wow. Lo vamos a dejar ahí mismo. Our next episode, we're going to be talking about November and how this November 2025 was my 1-year anniversary of me being on hormone replacement therapy, specifically estrogen. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for listening to this moment, this experience, this wisdom share, because that's exactly what this was. I hope everyone really absorbed all the information that Amaïs had to share because it's really important, it's very real, and we need to understand lived experiences are just as important as academic intelligence. So we need to remember that. And nada, como siempre, vete con Dios. Y que Dios te da amor, sabiduría y salud.
No pasa nada, yo veo agua, meneote culito como Tyler, amor profundo como Haya, flow psicópata como Arda, transfeminista como Gaga, te da miedo porque soy mama, no me entienden, yo